Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Babbling Preview Show. And this week we are taking on Anderlecht in the Europa Conference League, where we can pretty much confirm Europa going through to the knockout stages if we do beat them. What were your guys' thoughts on the previous leg against Anderlecht? And did you think they were kind of better than what you expected, or how did you find it?
Reminded me a bit of like when we played Ghent, really. They're a well-organised team. They have some good individual players. They didn't necessarily give us easy chances throughout the game. But it was just a good team. It's something that you would probably expect. I don't want to say championship. It's like a kind of that kind of championship to bottom half Premier League level kind of team. And that's no disrespect for them. It's just the league they're in. The quality isn't as high, but there are some very highly technical and highly high potential players like I see Vasharan from them, Yuri Vasharan. Players like that will always move on and do incredibly well. So yeah, I think they're a really good, tidy outfit, and I think we did quite well against them last time round as well.
Yeah, you can like elements of how their game is built upon. A lot of there were quite a few players with a lot of pace, and I think the biggest challenge that we had was kind of counteracting that and dealing with it, but also just dealing with the organization that they had, because they were so well set up at the back that for at least the first 30 minutes or so, we didn't have that many chances. We really had to work at it. And as you say, Mike, I think it kind of showed after a period of time where we just broke them down. And that was due to that difference in quality.
Yep.
Do you think going into this next one now, Moyes has kind of fully sussed out how they play, and they've now sussed out how we were playing in that back three? Do you think, being at home as well, we will change formation, or do you expect it to be a back three? We'll get into the predicted lineup after, but do you think Moyes will stick with that back three, or maybe change it to a back four like we've seen in the Prem?
I think it kind of depends, doesn't it, as well, with Dawson, because he maybe picked up a knock. Obviously, Johnson's back. He's probably going to want to give Johnson another game, probably going to want to give Soufal. So we might actually switch to a three, and he'll, slot Johnson into the back three. But then that does restrict, in terms of our centre backs if Dawson is actually injured, because that means he does have to play Zuma, and then he will have to play Kehra, unless, again, he wants to put two fullbacks playing as centre back, because he'd have to put Cresswell in as the other centre back, and then obviously Emerson plays. So I think, based on the fact that we may have to accommodate an injury to Dawson, I think we might go to a back four. Also, I think we might change anyway, because it's a home game and our pitch is a lot wider, and it's also a bit longer than most pitches. I think only us, Man U, Arsenal, and probably Wembley are the same pitch size in the UK. Everyone else's pitches are actually smaller, which is one of the reasons why we massively struggled at first, because we're not used to such a wide pitch.
Yeah.
So I think going to the four at the back allows us to essentially utilise the space and kind of stretch them a lot more as well. So I think we'll probably, I've got a gut feeling it'll be a four, but, it being Moyes in Europe, he tends to like a three. So, I guess we'll wait and see. But four for me is the route we go.
Yeah, just to touch on the London Stadium and stuff, because we've had this will be our second Europa Conference League home game of the group, and last time out I think there were rail strikes and the ground was kind of a bit half empty. Do you think that people fans are kind of used to now being in as that kind of European team, and now that we've got Conference League, they're not really that bothered about these group games? Do you think it'll be a sellout this Thursday, or do you think it can be kind of similar to how it was in the last game?
I think there'll be more there than last time.
I
can go to the last one, because again, the rail strikes again, I just couldn't get there. I think there's a fair few. A sellout's more, I think, difficult, because I don't even think last season we had sellouts until we got to group stages. But I think The other thing we got to say is that everything's a lot more expensive at the moment. So I don't blame anyone if they don't go to a home game or if they don't go to one of the European games abroad, because it is expensive regardless. Going to a football game, even if the ticket is cheap, something else is always going to be quite, going to add up to. So
yeah,
I would hope we got about 30,000-40,000 there. I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, for me to get to Stratford and back with.
We lost Loft.
You lost him on a brilliant freeze frame.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be forever on the internet.
Oh, he's back.
It's just like you were saying. You'd get to Stratford.
But I mentioned my girlfriend and it just goes. Yeah, no, I'm taking her up to Stratford tomorrow, and it's probably going to cost me about 40 quid to get us both up there and back, which, might not, it's not a lot of money, but for a lot of people, they don't have that to throw around at the moment. So, I mean, it does feel a bit like nights are flatter because of that. But it's not really our job to do much more than shine a light on that, I think, because
and there's other things the clubs can do. It's like kids.
Yeah,
I think they're doing that for the Bournemouth game, which is now a Monday night. I think they're making kids for £1.
Yeah.
Again, offer tickets to the community as well. So there are ways the club can do that. It might mean they're taking a financial hit on ticket prices, but if they're coming in and spending at concessions or in the club store, I guess the one downside is we only get about 50% of concessions, I think. So I can understand why maybe don't want to give away the tickets. But in games where we're not at a sellout and we don't look like we're going to sell, then why not give out, a few thousand tickets to local schools and do kids for £1, to get some last minute people in? Why not? Get people in the ground is better than having a half empty stadium because you're still trying to get 20, 30 quid for a ticket. Why not just kids for £1? Just get people in. And again, getting kids in a stadium is always great because it's just kids' enjoyment of football is always so much more exciting than what we see. We'll see that like a dumb-drun game where we're moaning about it, but they'll see like that tackle was brilliant. It's always like this, or when the noise goes up, I think it's always better getting a stadium full. And if it means something like kids for £1 for some of these European games to help, then why not? Let's do that.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty full, to be honest. And, no disrespect to Silkeborg and FCSB, but Anderlecht is a much probably bigger name to most West Ham fans as well. So I think there'll be that side of it as well. And I think there'll be at least 45,000 in there. So going into this one, in terms of the group, this is how we kind of compare with Anderlecht. We've both played 3 games. We sit top. They're just underneath us in second. We've got max points, 3 wins from 3, and they've picked up 1 win and 1 draw. So I guess, is there a risk that we're going into this kind of complacent, having already beat Anderlecht away, and maybe what we saw against Fulham, a bit of arrogance, a bit of undermining what they can actually bring? And, Anderlecht have got everything to play for. If they win this, they're only 2 points behind us. So actually, it's a pretty important game.
I think if we'd been in Europe 10 times in a row and, we got some sort of trophy under our belt, you could perhaps say there was a bit of complacency, but I think it's way too early to kind of talk about that. I think there will be elements of rotation, but I think that's because of the perceived areas that Anderlecht can be, exposed through and or that we can take advantage of, giving Johnson minutes when he's not fully fit. Let's face it, that's something we can do against an Anderlecht, and that's not disrespectful. I think that's just the reality of the situation, and we also need to look at the fact that now we've got a much bigger squad that is a lot more in depth, a lot more quality in depth. So we should be looking to make those changes. And I think although complacency in terms of attitude is something you could perhaps point toward in the league at times. I think there's no excuse for that in Europe. You know, it's a totally different kettle of fish, and in my mind, unless you are winning the Champions League consecutively, there's no excuse for complacency in Europe. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the squad now to rotate. So even when we are changing players, I don't think it's complacency. It's just, you know, we have to rotate, and we've got players that are good enough to win the game. So why wouldn't you? So let's actually go into that then. Let's look at the predicted XI. Gone with a back four here. So we've got Areola in goal. We've got Kufal right back and Johnson and Ogbonna centre back. Emerson at left back. A midfield three of Downs, Lanzini, and Paqueta, and a forward three of Benrahma, Bowen, Antonio. There are probably a few of these which are a bit controversial. It could be a back five. I just think with Dawson's injury, Moyes won't want to play him. He'll want to rest Zuma as well. Maybe Kera comes into a back three, but I think Cresswell as well was struggling a little bit against Fulham. So I think he might be tempted to play a back four and maybe give someone like a Paqueta or a Fornals 60 minutes to get the job done, and then we can start to maybe bring on other players. And yeah, I think we haven't really got another right winger at the moment, so Bowen's pretty much sticking in there. But would you guys be happy with this lineup, or is there anything you'd probably want to change from it?
No, I think it's pretty much what we should go for. I think a four is arguably what we'll play. And I think, like you say, like a Paqueta or a Fornals for 60 minutes to try and get it done early, and then it's about making the subs, I think.
Yeah. What about you, Sloth? Would you change anything?
For me, I mean, I think it's a pretty good lineup. I probably would put Paqueta on the bench, but then again, it's who do you bring in there for him? Because Souček's played every minute of football possible by the looks of it. So I think if you dropped him for a 5, then you could put Kara in there, and I think that kind of just shores us up a bit, but it does kind of send out a somewhat negative message. But I think that's a pretty solid lineup, to be honest. I think we need to be looking at games like this where we can say to players like Benrahma, go out, make a bit of a statement, and use the time to get yourself back into my plans. Emerson, I think he's probably in the same boat as Scamacca, where, you know, he's edging towards, sorry, not Scamacca, as Downs, where he's edging towards the starting lineup, but it's more the things we've heard about fitness and taking that step up that need to be addressed. So I think it's not the most exciting side, but you know, it's one that we should look to really kind of kill the game with anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, I think what our team points out as well is that we're still probably another probably 2, 3, even 4 windows away still from getting the true first 11, second 11 kind of configuration. This obviously you can see, you know, when you look at it, you know, having to put a right back in as an auxiliary centre back. Again, granted, caveat that there is a defender who's currently out on a long-term injury, which is one of the reasons why we're having to do that. But it does point out where there's just those couple of little deficiencies still in our squad makeup. But the promising thing is, again, when you look at that, that's still good quality, good depth. Obviously, it's going to get improved. But it just highlights that there's still some work to be done. And the foundations laid in this summer were brilliant which to get us to that point where we can actually now really have a proper rotation. It's just unlucky. It's just unfortunate we don't necessarily have another right winger or even a promising youngster that could potentially done that. Yeah, if Chester's maybe was there at the start of the season, but we sent him on loan. So again, it's it is what it is at the moment, I think, in certain positions. the problem is, and the thing that we always hope is that maybe we don't overplay the likes of Bowen, or he picks up an injury, because then we are in a bit of a position and a bit of a bind as to what do we do in that role.
I mean, even with that, this would be 9 changes from the Fulham game, and we do have Agerd who's injured at the back, so there would probably be rotation at nap spot, and with Bowen we've got Cornet out, so if those 2 players were fit, we'd probably have a completely different XI from the Premier League game, and that in itself is pretty good, because if you compare that to last season, there were only really 3 or 4 changes that we would see in Europe if we were rotating, so I think we're in a much better position. Like you said, the foundation is there. Obviously, there's still room for improvement, and hopefully that will come either in January or probably more likely in the summer. And yeah, I just think that team's pretty solid, to be honest. We get to see a 4-3-3. Downs as well gets to be the anchor of that, and having Paqueta in there with Lanzini will probably help Lanzini as well, instead of playing as a midfield 2 as we saw against Anderlecht last time out with a back 3. So. Yeah, and then if you look at our attack, Paqueta, Benrahma, Bowen, Antonio, we would be absolutely delighted with that last season, and that would be a really exciting front 4. So the fact we can do that, and we're still resting the likes of Scamacca, is really good. And yeah, it's just going to be interesting, because it's such an important game as well. So I hope we don't go into it a little bit flat-footed. I hope we press like we've been trying to see a lot, and we get that first goal and really settle down the nerves and stuff around the stadium. But let's end with your favorite thing, Mike: score predictions.
Yeah, I'll let you guys go first, and then I'll come in after.
Fluff.
Do you know what? I'm gonna go big. I'm gonna go 3-1. No, 3. Yeah, 3-1.
Who's scoring?
I think Benrahma is going to get one. Antonio with 1, and I'm going to go Flynn Downs, because he had a good chance in the first. He had a good chance in the first game, which he absolutely skied, and I think he'll probably be a bit more chomping at the bit to get off the mark. So yeah, that's my 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0. I think we'll be pretty solid in there, and hopefully we get the first goal, and that should, pretty much cement how we want to play. And then, I think we'll get another one late. And I think Antonio will get one, and 4-0 off the bench. That's my prediction. Mike?
Yeah, I'll say 2-0. I've got a feeling that Antonio might get one. I think there's a lot more space in home games. So I think, Antonio... Probably likely, if it's going to be a goal, it's going to be someone off the bench. I would like it to be Paqueta, because that would be just good for him to kind of get that goal, and to kind of release a bit of tension from him as well in that respect, because he's obviously getting the assist at the moment. But most likely, Scamacca will come on and he'll score again. So he just seems to do it whenever he plays at the moment. So it would be kind of stupid to suggest that he won't if he comes on the pitch, because he seems to... have nothing but good quality in front of goal at the moment.
Cool. Well, we're all pretty confident then. Hopefully we do get the win, and we'll pretty much, as we said, cement our place in the knockout stages of the Conference League. And I think then some of the Europa League teams will start to drop down as well. So it'll be interesting to see who comes into the mix, and there could be some pretty big ties to be drawn. So yeah, it's getting exciting. More games coming, a lot of games coming. And as we said before, hopefully we can get the 3 points. That's going to be all for today. Make sure to follow us over on Twitter at @BabblinIrons if you haven't already. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and subscribe to the channel for more content. And until next time, come on, you Irons.
Bye.